I would like to answer the question, what evidence do we have for the existence of an Indo European language? So I think that the person asking this question is asking, what evidence do we have for a Proto Indo European language? And Proto Indo European, like any proto language, is a reconstruction, a linguistic reconstruction of a hypothetical common ancestor for a family of languages or a group of languages that are related. So it's a part of historical linguistics, and you can create hypotheses or informed conjectures based on comparative studies of the daughter languages. So, for example, if we use Latin as the mother language, we can work backwards based on the dozens of Romance languages. Most people know a few. They know Spanish, Italian, French, Portuguese, and Romanian. But there's also Gallego, there's Catalan, Occitan, Provençal, Sardinian, Sicilian. There's tons of different Romance languages and dialects. And if you compare these languages that all exist on a spectrum of mutual intelligibility, that means that somebody who speaks Portuguese from Portugal and someone who speaks Gallego will be able to have a degree of mutual intelligibility. They'll be able to understand each other to a certain degree, even though they're speaking different languages. And you take the sounds from these languages and the different grammar structures, and you work backwards from this information of the languages that we have today to make informed conjectures, informed ideas about what a potential hypothetical mother language would be for the entire group. So I use the example of Latin and Romance languages, but of course, the Indo European family tree is enormous and includes some Indian languages. It includes Iranian, it includes Albanian, Greek, a huge stretch of languages. And I think it's important to contextualize the development of Proto Indo European. It is a useful tool, and it is interesting to have this idea that there was some common linguistic ancestor to modern Indo-European languages. But I think it's important to relativize that a little bit. So to go back to Latin, formal literary Latin was one thing, kind of the language of the elite that would be used in the Senate or that would be used in poetry is one thing, and vulgar Latin or casual Latin, the Latin you would use day to day to speak to other people, was not the same thing. And then when you spread out across Europe, then you have vulgar Latin speaking communities that are isolated from the parent civilization. And that means that language is going to develop differently over time. And that's how we end up with all of these Romance languages. And you can imagine that probably any Proto Indo European language that existed would have existed sort of in the same type of way, having a sort of range of space where it existed and where people then spoke some variation of that language. It's important also to keep in mind that that Proto-Indo-European was developed by people in a time when they were searching for an Adamic language or a biblical language and trying to find the language that Adam would have spoken in the Garden of Eden before the fall of the Tower of Babel. And it's in the same period that you have the development of early constructed languages like Esperanto and Volapuk, which were utopian projects to try and bring people together from different places. And it's this idea also of going back to having just one language for humanity, like we would have had in the Garden of Eden, if you believe that. And it's also around the same time as a lot of big projects for nation building within Europe. And they would have been consolidating local dialects into a national language, like what happened in France after the Revolution, where they felt that the peasants couldn't speak proper Parisian French, and they wanted all people to speak Parisian French to be able to participate in the democratic process. And it became mandatory to learn Parisian French in French schools. And that's caused a lot of loss of linguistic diversity in Europe, not just in France, but in Europe. So I hope that that helps to relativize this question, and I hope that it answers your question.